Welcome to Sunrise Life, the podcast where we have deep conversations with fellow freelance models. And today I have Ophelia Bloom on the line. Say hello.
Hi, thank you for having me. Excited to be a part. This is super cool.
Yeah, thanks. I'm so excited to get to know you a little bit more during this conversation also. Yeah, so for the people listening, can you describe how you first got into modeling?
Well, I went to school for theater, so I've always been like in front of people. I had no problem with being in front of people. I liked it. But when I went to college, I went to school for theater, and my best friend and roommate went to work at Disney. And I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So, like, I wanted to. So, I ended up moving to Florida and working for Disney for years. But then I ended up having my daughter and moving back to South Carolina. And I was just in the hospitality industry because I work at this theater and it closed down because of a hurricane. So, I was doing what everyone in Myrtle Beach kind of does and serving. And this guy came in one day to my table and like he was like, "You're really pretty. Have you ever thought about modeling?" And I thought he was just like hitting on me and being like some gross old guy. And I was like, why don't you go F yourself? I got in trouble and like someone else ended up taking his table and this guy kept coming in over and over and over. And he ended up and finally I said, yeah, one day. And I was like, fine, this guy's relentless. He showed me some of his stuff. I was like, I'll just do it, get him off my back. And I ended up going and doing this shoot with the guy and his name's Shepley Imaging, but he ended up being my best friend. And we just been shooting together for years. And and I loved it. I was like, whoa, I can't paint, I can't draw. But I was like, wow, I can make art with my body and people care to like look at something like this. Heck yeah, I can do that. So I loved it. And I just got like the bug for creating stuff. And ever since then, that was in like the year after my daughter was born, so like 2017. So 2016 is when I started. And I started hitting it hard in 2017. So I've been doing it since and I love it.
Wow. So that's intense. That's so cool though that like you had a relentless person at the restaurant you said that.
Bob Evans at that. And yeah, he would come in, he'd get his biscuits and stuff. And and the first time he came in with two really pretty girls. I'm like, oh, that guy's clearly up to no good. Look at this. Look at this. And like I was pointing at my friends, like, look at this guy. And I was like, they don't want to be there. Look at them. And like they were just like getting done with a shoot and they were tired. I didn't know what that was like at that point. And so I was like, oh, so they were super cool. They ended up being my friends too. But like it was like I didn't understand what model life was like. I thought like to be a model you had to be like agency or you know what I'm saying? Or like I don't know. I didn't know freelance modeling was like even a thing you could do. So,
That's so cool. That's an interesting way to get into it because like when I'm listening to that like beginning story, I'm thinking about all the photographers out there that are like, "Oh, I want to find more models to work with in my area, but like
mhm.
I'm too nervous to just like ask somebody if they want to get into modeling." And that's a whole thing, right?
It is. And I was not nice and I regret it, but we're best friends, thank God. But and but I thought he was hitting on me. I thought he was like making his move and I was like, ew, gross. I have no time for this. I'm a single mom. Gross. Just eat your pancakes and go. But he ended up being super cool and I showed I judged off of, and it's funny because now, we kind of get judged for our jobs sometimes and I get it now. I get it now. It's so funny how the tables have turned.
Yeah, that's totally true. And I can completely 1,000% like relate to, a guy is asking you anything really, and you're like, "Oh, he's just creeping on me." Like, "Oh, he's asking me what I had for dinner last night. He's creeping on me. He's asking me if I want to be a model. He's creeping on me." Like, but yeah, like strangers talking to you, especially when you're at work, like you you can't leave, you can just smile and nod and be like, "Yeah, shut up," but that's cool that he was cool about it and now you guys are so friends and stuff.
Yeah, he's actually like he helps me with my kid and everything for like 10 years. We've been super close and it's funny you were talking earlier today and I was talking about how like the webs have weaved all across my career. And it's just so funny if he had not bothered me at Bob Evans, I never would have done this. And it's just my life went a whole different direction because of that encounter. It's so cool.
Wow, and so you're living in Florida now. Did this all occur in Florida?
I lived here when I worked for the theme parks, and I moved back here for the theme parks because I'm a nerd. But I lived in South Carolina. Right after I had my daughter, I got pregnant when I lived here, but I moved to South Carolina, and it's just her and I. I knew it was going to be her and I, so I wanted to be near family. So all my family's out in Myrtle Beach area. So
Oh.
I started modeling out there. But as soon as I started doing that, I'm like, man, I don't like how there's nothing to do here. The arts, aren't as vibrant here. I would love to, have my child grow up somewhere where there was more art, more opportunity. So I moved back to Orlando, and my best friend came a couple of months after. He's like, all right, I'm coming too. So he lives a couple of miles away, and so he's in Orlando too, creating his art, doing his thing. And so it just really worked out. And so we stayed in each other's lives, just kept creating, and we're still best friends. And it was a really cool, solid, you can do this type thing, It was like some stranger believed in me that and it was really
Wow.
cool. It worked out really well for everyone.
Wow. So you first started modeling in 2016, and you mentioned that it was by 2017 that you started like really getting serious about it and like improving your career. And you had just recently had a child?
I did. I had a daughter in 2015, and I was doing like shows, community theater and stuff the whole time because my brain just works that way. I've got to do something. So I was like pregnant with her during the show Rent. And, I'm, fully, pregnant up there doing the thing, and then I had her, and I was doing Addams Family, and I just realized, I'm like, "Man, the only way to you can't get paid doing your work here," I was doing theater, which you don't get paid for unless you're, really found your way into it, but I I wanted to get out of I was like, "I want my daughter to do stuff like this." So whenever I moved back, I was like, "If I get serious about it, maybe I can see where it goes." But I had to work a full-time job until, 2019 is when I went full-time into modeling. I gave it my all, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna figure out how to do it," and I just became a full-time model. I had a couple of bookings a week that could cover my bills, and I just tried to grow my network from there when I got to Florida. So I didn't get paid for anything as a professional until I moved here.
Oh, okay. Wow. So that kind of paints a picture of like how your career started and like it started picking up more by the time you moved there. And then did you like when you first started modeling, like at what point did you open an Instagram account and were you using other platforms to find photo shoots and such?
Yeah, when I first started, I just used Facebook because I didn't really know much, and then Instagram was just, kind of doing its thing. I didn't I u The Instagram I have now is the same one I've had since before I was modeling. I kinda just been using the same one to do random stuff, and I there were the ums. I figured out that if I just keep working really hard, I started going to those group shoots and stuff and building up my portfolio in South Carolina, so that when I got to Florida, I already had a Model Mayhem account, which everyone kinda giggles about because a lot of people say they don't use it, but man, I still use it. I I love Bottled Mayhem still. It's still a good resource because I can go check stuff, and I don't update it as frequently as I should, but I do find people on there to network with. But I started when I moved to Florida, I remember I met a couple of girls along the way, and there was a girl named Helen who she was a touring, a travel model, and I was like, "Whoa, you can make money?" And "What do you mean go on tour? Like, like a rock star? Like, what do you mean?" And she was like, "No, I go and I hit these different cities and, you can make money. You have to set your rates." I was like, "I don't think I'm good enough to set rates," and that was a really big struggle for me was trying to say, "Okay, my work's good enough now to where I know what I'm doing enough to where I should be charged to, be nude modeling for people?" And
Mhm.
it was hard to swallow. But when I got to Florida and I really I saw other girls doing it here full time, and I was like, this is a thing that can be done. I never saw that in Myrtle Beach. So I just kept using things like Model Mayhem and my Facebook and Instagram to reach out to people whose work I liked. Um, and during that time, whenever I found someone whose work I was like, wow, I'd love to be a piece of this. This is the kind of art I want to create. It was never really about making money for me. I just needed to survive enough to raise my daughter. But I still just wanted to create art. And I felt blessed enough that I'd found an industry where I can still make money and do what I love and be a good mom. And so I became super passionate about it around 2019. I was like, I think I can find a way to make all of it work and prove to my kid that you can follow your dreams, you can make money, make your art, and you can still be good at having a family life. You can still be a good parent. You can still be a good person, without putting all of your eggs into one basket and just focusing on yourself and the there can be some narcissistic, tendencies that come with having an Instagram. People think like, "Oh, this person cares about themselves so much," and it's not. You just got to keep it going to keep getting bookings, to stay relevant, to keep getting your art out there. But it keeps you grounded, having a family, I guess. And I just wanted to really prove to her when I got here that, hey, you can do it. And I think since then, I've been kinda just keeping on par with what my vision was, but it's still learning, everything's changing with technology and stuff, you know? So Model Mayhem's, like, obsolete. This or she uses it, but I'm there.
Yeah, I still get work on Model Mayhem and I check my messages every day, but I definitely don't get as much activity on there as I did like in 2014 and stuff.
Did you use one model place?
I did when I first signed up for Model Mayhem in like '08. I also signed up for OMP, but that platform kind of sucked. Like they had just like updated their platform in a way that made it like kind of stupid. Like without going too far into detail, they made it so that you would get brownie points accruing on your OMP account if you responded to messages. And so people were just sending and responding to messages like without actually trying to set up a shoot. They were just trying to beef up their brownie points on OMP.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was like, this site is stupid, and I don't think anybody uses it anymore anyway.
I never used it, so and I heard a lot of people did, but that's interesting to know. I think Model Mayhem's outdated as well. I wish
It
they'd beef it up
is.
a bit.
It's a shame because it would be the best place still, but they screwed it up.
Bum, bum.
Yeah, but anyway, it's nice to be able to use Insta. One thing about Model Mayhem that I would say is like a disadvantage. Some people might say it's an advantage, but the thing about Instagram is that people can really catch your vibe on Instagram. Like you can have reels that show your personality, you can go live, you can share all various art, and it's easy for people to browse your pictures and see what you're like and who you're like as a person. But on Model Mayhem, it seems like photographers are searching for models within a certain age range, within a certain look, and they might be missing out on something that they don't know that they're missing out on because they're targeting, 22-year-old blondes or something like that. Like, who knows? Like
That's
he
so true. I never thought about that. That's so true.
Yeah.
I went to last fall, I went to Coco Rocha's model camp,
Oh.
which I was really excited about. It was the best experience of my entire career. But I what was cool about going there is I was there with like 22 other creatives. They weren't just models. There was a musician. She had a couple million followers. One's a makeup influencer. He has millions of followers who are just there to learn the presence behind a camera or to learn runway. There's different variations of why people are there. But I met this one lady there and she was fantastic and she was an older model and I don't wanna say her age because 'cause I'm really bad at that, but she was older, and she kept auditioning for different things. Her problem was that she'd show up for castings that are asking for someone within the grandma range, and she is smoking. She does not look her age. She is, a smoking grandma,
Mhm.
and she's missing out on so many roles because people will either not look at her age or disregard her because I think she'd look at her age, she's probably too old for this part. Or, they'll pick for something and they'll look at her picture and be upset because she looks too young. She doesn't look like, Mrs. Claus.
Yeah.
And so, like, it works on both sides of the ageism, when targeting, what you're looking for. Or it's just crazy because I didn't know that it expanded because I thought that was just something that I'd face as an older model. Since I'm at 34, I see that a lot of people do want younger models, which is beautiful. And there's different genres for everything, and there's different eyes for everything. So just because I'm not someone's cup of tea doesn't mean I'm not someone else's cup of tea, you know? And but I never thought about how, you know, Model Mayhem's so strategic, they can just look for a certain age. They can block out, completely alienate anyone else that could possibly have maybe fit that role.
Yeah.
And and it's cool, but going to that event, I saw that it happens though, even if you're older, like, you may not look old enough, and then, isn't that crazy? And like that was something I always worried about was like being too old, but sometimes you may not be old enough. You may not like, and some people won't look at it because they'll block out your resume because of your age.
Mhm.
And like, and that's something I never thought of. And so interesting that Model Mayhem, they do that.
Yeah.
And I never thought of it from that perspective. So I always pitch this to new models, when they're looking for places to find. And so that's something important for me to remember
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's like people want to put you in a box, right? They see that you did one type of thing and they assign in their mind, like, this is the kind of model that you are. And perhaps it would be hard for them to imagine you doing something outside of that genre. And I've been following you for quite a bit, since we went on that Florida trip. And I didn't meet you personally, but Travis met you. And so then I started following you and like the kind of stuff that I see you posting like is all over the place. Like you're doing artsy stuff, you're doing underwater stuff, like Playboy, Hustler, and you just did this Coco Rocha workshop and like the kind of stuff that you share is like it just shows that you're really passionate about like the variety of experience within this creative world, not just, getting your bag or whatever.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do like to think that my platform in this community, I just want to help. I really want to help. I want to create stuff and I want to help people that don't know how to do it without falling into some of the pitfalls that I fell into and I see other people fall into because no one's leading us. So that's why I went to Coco's camp. So I don't want to teach incorrectly. I want to know everything that I can possibly know in my field before I try to en encourage someone else, I don't wanna do the wrong thing. Yeah, I wanna do it right. So, I'm trying to do it right before I don't know, I just think it's so cool, there's so much to learn, like, just watching people, and watching how people do I don't know how you guys got in that some of that water you got in. I'm so afraid of underwater animals and bacterias and, like, but I'm sure you have a way to teach people how to do that, because you're so experienced in all of your fields and especially underwater stuff. Things that, I would never, I was like, man, I should do like an underwater workshop when I was like, wait, no, I shouldn't because there are a lot of things I don't know still, you know? And there's a lot of you just gotta, it's cool just to learn and,
Yeah.
and to teach what you've learned. And I'm very passionate about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you learn through experience. Speaking of germs in the water, share a short experience. I was doing an underwater trip with Astrid, doing like one of those multiple photographer underwater trips in Mexico. And we scheduled it to be in like July or something like that because we were like, oh, it'll be hot and sunny and the water's cold. So it makes sense, right? Apparently, the summertime in Mexico is like when they have their algae blooms and it rains a lot more. So any runoff from the rain brings new bacteria into the cenotes. And long story short, pretty much everybody had like food poisoning symptoms after that trip.
No.
We learned the hard way. And that was at a workshop, like
Also, everyone got sick, even just the photographers too.
Astrid and I definitely got sick because we had our, like, eyes and mouths open in the water a lot,
Oh. Oh my
but
gosh.
the photographers had ski mat or not ski masks, goggles. Ski masks, where did that come from? They had goggles on, and a lot of them were using snorkels, so they didn't have their mouth and nose in the water as much as we did because 'cause we're diving with nothing, right? So, both of us definitely got Montezuma's revenge, but yeah, like, we got through it. We just took some
Wow.
Pepto-Bismol, and we got through it.
Tough cookies, you guys. Tough
Yeah.
could be. That's the things that people they don't see. Those are the things that people don't see. The behind the scenes
Yeah.
beauty, the pain for the art.
Yeah. The
That's
last day was rough, but we got through it.
so cool.
Yeah.
Not that you guys got sick, but that you have this cool story to tell, and now you know not to go back in the summer.
Yes, exactly. That's
Also, no, not to go in the summer.
yeah, don't go to the cenotes in the summer, and I couldn't speak for the Florida Springs, though, because I don't know if it's the same problem there, but I assume there might be a similarity.
Well, I get in them all the time too, so I have gotten sick though. So I never know that's what it could have been.
Yeah.
I I have gotten sick multiple times out here, but I will not get in the lake. I will not, and that means I've seen some Astrid's got some beautiful shots with her in the lakes, and there's just and you too. I can't do it. Alligators, Florida. I'm too
Oh,
scared.
man.
I'm
Yeah.
way too scared.
I would be scared of alligators too. I mean, I know that there are gators in some of the springs too. I feel like I've just been lucky at the ones that I went to, but oh, I mean, people swim in the springs all the time, so I don't know. You never know.
Right. Take our chances.
Take our chances. Might die, might not.
Oh, so crazy.
So, since you've been in Playboy and Hustler, I would like to talk about how your career progressed to that point and how and if that has improved your career as a freelance model.
Yes, I have been very excited to have every opportunity that's come my way was by sheer accident. Just by talking to people, knowing people, like hanging out with people, and just trying to show up, I guess, to work and do a good job everywhere I go. And it's paid off, certain things that I've always tried to do. And when I got the Playboy thing, it was really weird. It was honestly, it was when I got 10K on Instagrams when I saw my first change in my career. So when I got that, that was when finally things started picking up. And then I finally was able to do some influencing. And that is what I think eventually led down the line for Playboy. That one that one just gave me a little bit more street cred, I honestly felt like, but it wasn't until Hustler till things really started changing for me in my career. Hustler was a game changer because I not only I shot with Ellen Stagg, which she is freaking phenomenal. She's amazing. If you want a chance to shoot and get into Hustler, shoot with Ellen Stagg.
Mm.
Um, she my friend Violet Voss reached out to me and she's like, "Hey, I want to do this shoot with this beautiful, awesome female photographer. Are you interested? We're gonna try to get into Hustler. No guarantee, but you want to do it?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do. Let's do it." I've sign me up. So we went. We had this amazing shoot day. It was awesome. We shot, at the pool. It was very summery vibe. We had some pool floats. I had just put in some blonde in my hair to break up our looks a little bit because Violet's got this beautiful, like Elvira, light skin, really dark black hair look. She's gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. But she had that look, so she was going for more the dommy type look, and I'm just like whatever. I'll just show up and be a chameleon. So I did like the subby stuff, which is very easy for me. I got big eyes, I can just milk it. So it looked really cool. It went great. We didn't think anything of it, we just had a good time. And a couple weeks later, we heard back. We shot 2 different sets. We shot one for Taboo for Hustler and one for Hustler, the original magazine. And we got them both. And so we got paid, like 500 for both. And we got the cool honor of being in these, you know, magazines, historic magazines that I just never thought I'd get a part of. And after that, I was just really excited just to share, but it gave it I think that my international travel has really picked up since then. Um, Demand for, workshops has really picked up, which is really cool because that's how I like to, do a lot of get one of my one-on-one schedule times. We shoot with a little bit, we don't have enough time, then we, kind of plan something outside of there and create something together that we can collaborate on with more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it really I don't know how or what it did, but it gave me more credentials, I guess, to where people n- trusted that I knew what I was doing, if that made sense. I don't know why it does, but I guess just having that a staple like Hustler and Playboy, it gives you credibility as a model, which it was something I really wanted. I know it was silly, but it was something that since I knew that it was a thing you could achieve, I worked on it really hard since like 2020. Since I got my boobies done, I call it post boob, pre boob, post boob days. A lot of fine art. I was super skinny, did a lot of fine art, and I really got booked for no glamour, no boudoir. I mean, if I was boudoir, I wasn't competent or comfy. So I really got my boobs done just for I wanted to do something different. I wanted to try different styles that I couldn't really achieve before. So when I got them, I was like, all right, they're kind of big. We're gonna roll with it. Let's go. Like, let's see what I can get, and then I just kept trying forever. Every time I heard of an opportunity available, I just tried. And so now I feel like people just think that, I'm more established and I have some credibility to, my career because I have these big publications. But, and, I've gotten to travel and do some cool signings and stuff with Hustler. And I got to go meet Larry Flint's daughter. Oh my gosh, I wish I could remember her name off the top of my head, but I can't right now. We got to hang out with them and party with them in New York at the signing, and it was really cool, to just be included of included in like one of these big names and one of these big brands that I wanted to be associated with. And I don't know, it's kinda helped a lot, but honestly, and I'll say it again, the biggest thing that's helped me was that workshop with Coco.
That's awesome.
I really learned a lot, and, she sat there and she was so humble and chill and just sat there and sat across from us and just answered all the questions we had. She was very hands-on, very one-on-one, and she was very big on including everyone. She's like, "All right, we're not gonna split off into little groups. We're all gonna sit here and hang out together. Because if you've got a question that you've gotta ask me, I'm sure someone else in this room has it too." You know, and
Oh.
and, like, she taught us not to try to be pretty all the time. She's like, your job," she said she asked us what our job as a model was, and we all were like, "To be beautiful, just sell something, blah, blah, blah." She said, "No. Your job as a model is to make me feel something. You got about 8 seconds, when people are scrolling on Instagram. You gotta make someone feel something as soon as they see your image." You know, that's your job, to make people feel something. And, that's kind of aligned with what I've felt my entire career. And so it just solidifies like, all right, make the weird stuff, do the weird stuff, because that's what I'm supposed to do. That's my genre, and that's what I've always loved to create. So if you create what you love to create, you're going to find that area. And so going to that event really just helped me find the confidence that I needed, not only to pose the way I want to and to, speak my mind out, at a shoot or in a collaboration so that everyone's on the same page. I learned to play music that made everyone feel something so that the energy in the room is moving, you know, in the way that I want it to go with the shoot as well, so that we're all on the same page. That Coco taught us that as well. I just learned so much, and like the use of AI is such a big thing now, but you can definitely use it to boost your career by asking it the right questions, and aligning yourself with the right brands by asking AI what brand you align with. I don't know for sure that Coco camp did more for me than those other 2, but the other 2 were definitely huge, huge things that I'm very, very proud of. I'm very grateful to be a part of. Hustler, I'm super excited about, and just the Hustler family's been pretty loving and welcoming, and they send me cool little packages of stuff, which is
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it is super cool. I'm really excited. I'm grateful, very grateful. But just like for Violet for reaching out to me, and Ellen's just so fantastic. She's such a cool girl's girl. So fun to shoot with. Very happy I did it.
So you mentioned about your pre-boob life and your post-boob life and how initially you were doing a lot of fine art nude modeling and then you as soon as you got the boobs and the publications with Playboy and Hustler, you got more into glamour modeling. Do you find that, like, people, like photographers or fans, want to pigeonhole you into one genre or another? And how does that make you feel, and how do you navigate that as a freelance model?
That's a cool question. I like that. I think so. Yeah, 100%. I think, and I that's another thing I also learned at camp too. It was I you get what you're putting out, and I didn't really think about that. But I've been doing so much boudoir, bikini, erotic stuff, fetish stuff over the last couple of years that I kind of have pigeonholed myself into it. And a lot of people I didn't realize, especially in Florida, were labeling me as a fetish model, because I do a lot of fetish stuff. I mean, it's where a lot of bread and butter is, and I love it too. And but I didn't realize that, there were certain people that were afraid to work with me because I think they may have thought that I pushed towards that genre, because I shoot it a lot. Like I'd show up to shoots and people like, "Oh yeah, yeah, and we'll shoot some stuff for your only whatever." I don't know if I could say it on here, but your subscription sites. And I never really pushed for that because I didn't really care. Anything that I put on there originally was just stuff I already had. Um, just an extra outlet to share some of these cool nude photos that I really wanted to share with the world, but I couldn't. And so initially it was all starting off like that. But I did get pigeonholed very quickly because I also perform my fetish stuff under another name as Amaria, which is what I also did Hustler under. So I kind of merged my two identities in a way to show the family for I'm not the family, but the wholesomeness aside as well. Because there's a whole lot that I want the world to know that I can do. And that was always my thing. I was like, I want to be remembered as a model that did everything and not just fetish, not just boudoir, not just fine art. But so after the boobs, when I love doing fine art, don't get me wrong, but I just really felt super pigeonholed because I was so tiny. It wasn't even fashion stuff that I was getting. I was shorter, but I didn't know that I could be trying, different the things that I know now, about how work we can find work, but I didn't know those back then. So I was pigeonholed into just whoever would pay me for fine art nudes for a long time. And I when I got the boobs, now that I get to do all the fun stuff, I make sure that I do enough of my own creative stuff to put into my portfolio so that it shows that I do have more range. Because if I'm just putting out bikini, glamour, boudoir all the time, that's all people are going to hire me for because that's all that I'm showing them that I can do.
Yeah.
So I've just learned now that's why I try to make sure my stuff is all over the place. So if you find my stuff, okay, she could probably maybe do my genre, you know, to give myself more of a chance of getting hired or to be someone that someone would maybe want to work with or collaborate with or just to make something with because I want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about getting paid for me anymore. Like I really want to I just want to create the stuff while I can and I love to do it. And I did get pigeonholed, but I do think now that the way that I approach people when they either reach out to me or if I reach out to them, I make sure it's well known that I love to do all genres. So I've just made it part of my everyday spiel, like, hey, I want to do all of it. It's fine, let's go. But I used to for sure just only get booked. So even when I go on my elaborate, like cool trips now, I bring weird stuff to sprinkle in to our bikini and our boudoir stuff. Like I brought a trident and the crazy like headpiece and some random stuff to this last shoot in the British Virgin Islands. I was like, all right, I'm gonna make somebody shoot this look for me. And we got it and they were killer. I'm so happy I brought that freaking trident with me. It
I
was
see
weird.
all those photos. They were cool.
Yeah, and like no one ever was like, why she got that trident? I'm like, I got an idea. I swear it's gonna look really cool in my head. But like, and I love that now I'm at the point where people kind of just trust me to do my thing and it's gonna turn out cool. And I think that, like, just by vocalizing it more at shoots and just wherever I'm at, and even on my social media and on my platforms, I think people have just accepted that, okay, this girl, she would really pigeonhole her. I think she's gonna shoot whatever. But if someone's gonna I think a lot of people reach out to me because they know I will shoot stuff because I have done Hustler. I think that more people may reach out because I may shoot some more of the erotic stuff that they didn't think I shot before because I have posed for Hustler. So it's kind of been good. But I'd say I was more pigeonholed before without the boobies.
Interesting. Wow, that's a
Yeah.
very like dynamic answer. And yeah, I mean, I think every freelance model like has to deal with, do I want to remain as a single genre model or do I want to be more of a chameleon? And I've interviewed people of both mindsets. Some people just stick with one genre and they don't want to go outside of it, and others like really want to explore like all kinds of stuff, which I'm kind of like the want to explore all kinds of stuff type also. So I think that's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Okay, so moving
I'm
on.
sorry I'm talking your ear off. I am a talker. I
You're
apologize.
good.
My ADHD is on today.
I have this part of my podcast that I also ask everybody on the show. And it's an opportunity for you to share a crazy story or two. So, can you recall something that's happened in your modeling, like at a shoot or with a photographer or while traveling, where something crazy happened? Like it could be crazy funny, crazy bad, crazy weird. What's one or two of your crazy modeling stories?
I have so many, but for reasons just can't say them on the podcast. So we'll say some that we'll see. I was thinking about this. I was reading your message trying to figure out which one I could do. There was one time that I really here's one. There was one time I decided to do a trade shoot with this amazing model here in Florida, and she's a photographer too. She's just her photography is just ridiculously great. And so we decided she was Russian, and so she spoke very little English, and I did not do a good enough job preparing myself with learning something. I could have done better. I could have just done better. But I just didn't think it would be that hard. I thought we were just gonna, but it was an underwater shoot. So we were at Kelly Rock Springs, and so we're shouting to each other before I go up and down because she had first went into the water and her camera it wasn't closed all the way when she went under and her camera fried.
Oh,
And it was heartbreaking. So we were trying to salvage the shoot. So we were doing the best we can, and we're all trying to keep spirits high because, I know her heart was broken. You know that feeling. You've probably seen multiple photographers lose something at a shoot, and like that
Mhm.
feeling you feel, especially when you're the model that they were shooting when it happens. You just,
Yeah.
it's like this certain guilt. You're like, oh no, I'm so sorry. Like, and you can't do anything. So we're sitting there, and she brought this big, gorgeous blue dress that, because she does a lot of dress shoots, and it was a massive, it was gorgeous. And she had her friend with her who also, spoke Russian as well, and I didn't. We were just trying to figure it out. I'm standing on this rock. We're at the spout of the head. The water's gushing past us because, when you're at the spout, that water's moving pretty quick, more so than when you're at, a different part of the spring. And so we're sitting there and we're trying to get it. And she's at this point now where her iPhone or her phone is waterproof. So we're trying to grab the shots, and it's hard. We have to speed it up because people are going to start coming through. You just
Yeah.
want to interrupt. And this dress is just taking me away. Like every time I go underwater, and there's a bunch of rocks and stuff, and this water is just taking me away. Like as soon as like he let go, he like popped up out of the water, and we tried to get it, but by the time she had got it, I just went, "Shoo," and like I'm like put my hands over my head, trying not to like get my head because it I gotten low enough to get the shot to where I was underneath this big rock, but then there was another rock underneath me, and it was, like, weaving. So it was a very tiny spot. I don't know if you've ever been to the head of Kelly Rock Springs where it's got all those different rocks, little cool cavern areas to, like, go under, but
Mhm.
it was, like, one of those moments where I was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna die in this die in this shoot." But the crazy thing is we got the coolest shot
Wow.
in that moment, and we got it. We got it. I thought I was gonna die. I was like, "Oh, great. I ruined this whole thing," and blah, blah, blah. We got it in that shot. We nailed it, and I didn't die. And
Wow.
the girl did lose her camera during that shoot, so that was unfortunate. But
Wow. That
we
is
got
epic.
it was epic, but it was probably, like, the most because I was oh, man, it was probably the most scared because I tried, to look dainty as soon as I let go, but then as soon as I did, I went, "Zoom," and I'm just, like, getting sucked back by okay. It worked out well. No one was hurt. I got a couple but I always get scratched up every underwater thing with rocks. I get scratched. There was another one when I was in Aruba. Was Aruba? It was Aruba. One of my favorite photographers, John, the cover image. We he's like the guy that will climb up anywhere with me and do the crazy stuff I want to do.
Mm.
So if there are rocks or somewhere crazy, you better believe we're up there climbing it, trying to get some weird shit. And but every time I shoot with him, like it's just like my butt gets tore up from these rocks. Like I don't, you probably know from like sitting on rocks and like posing on stuff. You get on sharp stuff, you don't even think of it. You're up there doing your thing, and then you have to continue to shoot. So your butt's like all messed up. So you're, oh man, I gotta pose around my butt now. It's like going to be crazy editing because it's all splotchy and yada yada yada. And so I remember the last time I shot with him, I couldn't shoot for, like, the rest of the day because my butt got, like, just so messed up, but got another epic shot, but messed up the butt.
Wow.
All the
That's crazy. Yeah, those rocks can be really harsh sometimes.
You don't even think about it because 'cause you're like, "Gotta do it. I can nail it. I know I've got an idea in my mind for this pose, and if I keep doing it, I know I'm gonna knock it out." And you just forget. But I will say I did do one other crazy thing. The craziest thing that just, like, pops into my mind off the top of my head is I did a TV show thingy one time. It didn't work out, but it was supposed to be a reality TV show where they took 16 models and put them in a house, and they did. It was here in Florida. I don't know if you remember the IBMS. I don't think it's a thing anymore. But I didn't know anything about it, but they cast me for it, and I went, and there were 16 of us. Now, mind you, coronavirus had just started, and we all kinda knew that. We went into this house, we all tested negative, went into the house to go do it. So we're doing, like, challenges, like, it's like Big Brother mixed with, like, America's Next Top Model type
Oh.
situation going on. It was a pretty cool idea. It never came to be. It was supposed to be on the Roku channel, but it never I mean, which is it was pre we were all excited. But, it was crazy because they do things and they do challenges. Like, I remember I won a challenge where we went to the thrift store and they gave us $20. We'd have to dress ourselves head to toe and do a photo shoot. And I ended up doing it and winning it. But they don't know that I do that on the regular. And so I'm like a pro at it. It's just I feel like I had an advantage going in and just spending like the least amount of money finding something that works. But like we did like little things and you won stuff. But so slowly, we're getting closer to the end date of this, and we're all getting like comfy. We all know each other. The house is getting like crazy, gross. It's a bunch of girls, like everyone's trying to clean up, do their little thing. We've got a diary room. So and you have to think though, like we're drinking and stuff at night or whatever. And then we go into this diary room and we all are just like talking. And then like they get us to go in at once. So luckily I think I did a pretty good job of not saying anything bad. I'm pretty good about that in the most part, I feel like. But like I definitely went in there with like one eyelash on and one eyelash not on
Mm.
one night. And like the girl didn't ask her. And I was like, why didn't you tell me my eyelash was not there? And then another night we were there and then we were practicing for the big runway thing that we were going to do. Flo Rida was coming in to help judge this thing. And so we're all practicing for it. And then they bring in a guy that owns like a hookah lounge in the area. And he brings a bunch of hookahs and like these burners and like these like coals and stuff. Someone, and now mind you, we're all like, we're having fun, there's Jameson and stuff. We're all practicing our stuff, doing stuff. They're recording. Now I I'm doing my thing, whatever. I go to sit down at one point and someone had moved one of the burners on top of the chair. Like, it was there, I just didn't see it. Not like did it while I was sitting down. It was already there, I just didn't see it because I was a little distracted by my Jameson and stuff. And I sat down on my hand for whatever reason. Thank God I did not sit down straight on my butt, but I sat down on my hand, and when I did, I sat on the burner, and I sat on my hand and pushed it down onto this hot burner.
Oh.
Um, and man, girl, when I tell you this thing was the most painful thing in my life, thank God that there was Jameson in my body because they had to, and they recorded all of it, dude. I've got like behind the scenes videos of them recording. I'm so embarrassed. But I had rings on my finger, on two of my fingers, and they had to like pull the rings off, and like
Oh.
skin came off, and like they recorded. I like passed out. It was like so it was so gross. But for the rest of the show, I had a lobster hand. They had to tape my hand up because the burns were so bad. I had like a stove, like 4 big, long, swerved, like curled line burns on my hand. It was nasty and blistery. But so I had a lobster hand. So I had to walk around for the rest of the show in the lobster hand. And then the next day, I was eating my breakfast and I couldn't taste anything. And I was like, wait, and then one girl was, like, sick in the room, and then another girl, and we all got COVID.
Oh, man.
And so I got COVID right in the beginning in January when it, like, started getting bad, and then I had this burnt lobster hand, and it was my dominant right hand, so I couldn't do anything. And the guy that I was seeing at the time was like, "No, no, no, you can't come home. Like, you can't give us." So, like, I had to stay in a hotel, a crappy I stayed in the garage for a while. It was crazy. That was a bad relationship. I stayed in the garage, but I stayed in a hotel with my lobster hand and COVID for, like, 2 weeks, and it was the craziest. I was like, "This was the one shoot adventure that was probably not worth it." It didn't even make it to air, but I burnt my hand. I had lobster hand and got COVID.
Wow, did you have to go to the hospital with the burns, or did you just handle it on your own?
Handled it. The only reason why I didn't was because one of the guys there, Bob, was a retired fire rescue guy. So, and one of the girls was a nurse. One of the models there was like I forgot what her name is. She's so beautiful. She's a great model, but she's still a nurse. So they did it. They doctored it. They went and got everything they need, and they did their thing. It was bad. It was so ugly. But I was out of commission for quite a minute. That was not the best beginning of my year because I couldn't work because like I was sick for weeks, and then my hand was, like, gross, so I finally was just posing with my hand down, but it scarred for a long time. It's finally gone.
Wow.
Gone now.
That's
That's probably the
intense.
craziest. That's the craziest one.
Yeah, that's severe. Like, I mean, getting burned sucks. I haven't had a burn quite like that, but I had a friend who like landed on her hands on like the metal exterior of like a fire pit and it blistered her hand really severely and that looked terrible. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
no thank you. No, thank you.
No fun. But and that was in 2020 you said when COVID was new or
Actually, I'm looking at the dates right now, so it looks like that was actually COVID been around for a minute. That was 2021.
okay, so it's still kind of early COVID. I think it was that would must have been before everybody got vaccinated. I don't know. That was a weird time.
I sent you the picture of my hand on our message thread. That we were
Okay,
messaging
yeah,
earlier.
let me
See,
see.
visualize how gross this was.
Oh. That's that your hand looks like a hot dog.
Oh, hot dog hand, no. It was so nasty, right? Ugh,
That's nasty. That
nasty. And
stinks.
you see where the ring was on that middle finger? Where I
Uh-huh.
pulled it. It was
Wow.
nasty.
Damn, that sucks.
That was after it had healed a little bit too, so you can imagine it was nasty. Not a good
Wow.
time. Not a good time. That was my craziest, and that was the only time I'd ever gotten, like, hurt on set, but it was 100% my fault, but we weren't, like, drinking during the shoot. It was, like, off time. We were practicing for the thing. We were clearly all hanging out doing our thing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was, like, being crazy and professional. I just was being stupid.
Yeah. Oh man.
I paid
Hey,
for it.
stuff happens like that sometimes.
It was a mess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that was my crazy one, but luckily, it didn't take too long to get over, and I was back to normal. And my hand's normal again.
That's good. I'm glad that you've healed up.
I want to take a short little break to tell you about Model Society. ModelSociety.com is a website dedicated to featuring figurative fine art photography for models and photographers. What makes them different than other portfolio hosting websites is that some of those other websites will still host kind of tacky photography or exploitative photos. Model Society screens all of their contributors for quality and authenticity. So you only get the best of the best on there. If you're not a photographer or model, you can still enjoy and appreciate Model Society because they also have newsletters and magazines featuring their best work and new articles each week. Check it out, modelsociety.com. I will also include a link to Model Society in the show notes. All right, now back to our show.
I have another question that I would like to ask that I also ask everybody on the show. I call it the rising phoenix era of your life. Can you describe a situation, and it could be related to your modeling or your personal life, whatever you want to get into, a situation where you were faced with a challenge that you had to overcome?
Hmm. Do, do, do. Uh, I just in general, being like a mom has been very challenging, a single mom, and like still trying to have a job where you can travel.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult for me to navigate because it's very important that I'm here for her. We're very close. We do like everything together. So it sucks when I'm not home, but I love my job so much that I love to be active and make sure that I'm going and like I'm still touring and getting my things done. But it's really hard for me sometimes to navigate being a mom, being a model, and definitely having a relationship um in the industry. Like it's very difficult for me to like juggle all of them, but I've found a way to do the model part for like many years at this point. But I still cannot really figure out the relationship one. That part's
Mm.
really it's very difficult. That's been like, you know, I think even more so than, like, figuring out my scheduling because I 'cause I've gotten better at scheduling with my daughter over the years, but dating, I think that's top 1. That's tip top because like,
Really?
I've been through many relationships since I started modeling, and, it's kinda difficult. I've dated, photographers, which, sometimes is a good idea, and sometimes, it hasn't been the best idea for me.
Yeah.
I've dated people that, are super vanilla and, never thought they would, think it's super glamorous to date a model, but, maybe they're not the most confident. So it really shows through some things. And there's a lot of, hurdles because, there's not as much confidence on the other side, which is sometimes very difficult because I'm just, my job is so natural to me. I'm just so used to just showing up and throwing my clothes off like it's nothing. And it means nothing to me because
Yeah.
that's my job. I'm very even before then. I did burlesque. I did theater. We're naked all the time. We have to just get used to people seeing you.
Yeah.
And some people don't get that and they associate it all with modeling. But there's different, parts. I've been around models that are extremely modest. Like, they pose, but you don't see them naked unless, you know, they're like doing their thing. It's everyone's preference. So like dating's been very difficult because I'm very open with, with just I'm just it's there. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with posing. I'm okay with posing erotic. I do some of the fetish stuff. I do some girl stuff too, and some people that, they don't know the difference like between work and not work, and that I know the difference between my work and what's not work. And so it gets really hard to have to explain, when you're starting to see someone new or like when you are dating someone and they don't get that part.
Yeah.
So there's so many levels to that I it's hard for me to try to explain to someone. And I found myself getting so frustrated where I didn't even like want to date for a while because I was like, oh, I got to go through all this again.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it again because it's kind of hard to date unless if you find someone that you're really like in sync with on the same page, like they get it, they get that you're going to be on the road a lot, they get that like you can't be talking all the time, like or that you're even like going on tour with someone else and it's rude to necessarily just sit on the phone all the time in the room and you're in New York City, it's cold, I don't want to go sit outside all day, and talk on the phone. There are multiple levels to that, and it was very difficult for me to just realize that it was okay to realize that, you know,
Yeah.
that you have to be a certain type of person to be able to date someone that is involved in the industry, or someone that wants to be nude, or someone that you know can respect it without getting so worried or whatever. I dated one guy once that he, he was fine with it at first, and then he was like, I don't understand why you have to seduce old men for money. I'm like, I'm just posing. I was at going to NIMPA, Nude in Nature Photo Art Haven, and it's like it's literally about art. And then and I'm like, man, they don't get it. Some people just really don't get it. It's not. A lot of people seem to think that models are just really narcissistic, and it's something that I'd really love to break that stereotype. I wish we could figure out a way to say, hey, some people are just here to make art, and what? Who cares? What if we do look good in that picture? Sometimes I see a picture, I'm like, whoa, I look good there.
Yeah.
Me, and that's okay. I feel like we all do that, and but there's dating for me has just been hard because I feel like a lot of guys have just been like, oh, she needs attention. Oh, and it's not. There's a lot of and I'm not gonna lie, I do like people being like, hey, that's hot. That makes me feel good. I like that. One day they're not gonna say that anymore, so I'm gonna eat it up.
Did we date the same guy? Because my ex-boyfriend was a lot like that too.
Oh, I hate that. I hear that so much.
Oh
But I
my
think it must be
god.
such a common thing, you know?
Yeah, right. Like they start out like, "Oh yeah, this is just great. It's beautiful what you're doing." And then it's like, "Oh, you're just trying to show the world your pussy and like all these guys want to fuck you." And it's like, "You didn't say that when you first got together, and now you're showing me how you really feel?" Like,
Right. I don't get it. It's hard. It's like, oh man, now I've done posted you all over my stuff, and dang it, and I exposed you to all these other models, and dang it, like and it's hard. It's really hard because you just want everybody to be happy. You want everybody to like. I want everybody that I meet to know everybody else that I know. You know what I'm saying? That's like my person. Like, hey, oh my gosh, you would love this person, or oh my gosh, you would love to shoot with this person. Like, she's totally down your alley, and that's like the way I've always kind of been. But like I don't know, even beyond dating, like, I don't like there's one thing in the industry that I wish that there was a little less of, and it's the competition stuff. But I know with entertainment, competition's a big thing. It's always gonna happen. But I feel like it gets to be really like, I don't know, it gets in the way of friendship sometimes.
yeah.
Uh, Not just models, but and photographers and models too, all around the board.
Have you had situations with like other people that are like outside of the industry that you were friends with like before modeling that got weird when you got into modeling?
Oh man, girl, I get my feelings get hurt so much. So my dad was a Southern Baptist preacher growing up. So I grew up in church. I grew up singing at church. That was our thing. He'd preach, I'd sing, like type thing. I went to a Southern Baptist college. I got a full ride in music to North Greenville University, which is a super teeny tiny Christian college in South Carolina. And all of my friends in my theater department are pretty much not my friends on Facebook anymore. Any friends that pretty much had any pretty like I've got a couple that stuck around, but it made me really sad. I was like, oh my gosh. Even some of my professors that I was friends with, they like all unfriended me. And I know it was when I probably started posting like my nudie stuff. I get it. I get it. It doesn't align with what they believe, but it doesn't mean it didn't like hurt. Like people that like my memories would pop up. I'm like, oh my god, I go share the memories, and like they weren't my friend anymore. I was like, when did this happen? What did I do? And I was, and it's bad. That part's been painful. And like people like from church back in the day, obviously I get why they don't want to be there, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt because those memories and friendships, they were real to me.
Yeah.
Uh, even in the industry, I've lost friends, like just, across the board. And sometimes over very silly things. And it makes me so sad. But when money gets involved and like stuff like that gets involved, things can get dicey. And
Yeah.
it's hard to navigate sometimes.
Yeah, you have to be able to, like, know when it is it a one-sided friendship, or did their feelings suddenly change about you because of they have some type of morality or standard for how you're supposed to be in the world, that once you're a nude model, you no longer align with their view of morality, and yeah, it gets messy.
Right. And it's sad that but especially in like today's world, you kind of expect it, but it's just like I said, every time I see it, I'm like, oh my God, I love this picture. And I'm like, oh, well, God, where are you? I can't, because some people definitely got married and their names are changed. Maybe they just are somewhere else. But that just shows we're not very close anymore. If I'm looking for them to tag them in a thing. But it
Yeah.
is, but it just makes me wonder if in the back of their minds, they think that I've changed as a person from the person that they loved, which I haven't just because I do different types of art now.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I wanted to leave that mindset of in Myrtle Beach and in the South, or, like, or we're in the South now, but in South Carolina, it was very hard for me to find my people,
Yeah.
you know, and I think it was more so that it's not everyone has the same mindset. There are a lot of open-minded people and great people in South Carolina that I love. But I'm just saying that the people that aligned with my mindset, I couldn't really find them until I got here and in this industry. But yeah, it is hard just to maintain relationships sometimes because of the nature of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, like, maybe friends that you've had before, like guy friends or whatever, if you had guy friends in the past, like once you start posting your modeling pictures on the internet, like their girlfriends get like all weird about you and don't want you to hang out anymore. And that's happened to me.
Mhm. I'm the girl that I feel like I definitely bro myself out around my friends' boyfriends. I'm like, I make myself look hella and I don't know why I do it, but I'm like, I'm making sure that nobody thinks that there's no questions because I've had so many people like in the past, get mad at me like, oh, you have OnlyFans. Oh, my husband looked at it and like get mad at you. I'm like, I don't know what to do because I wasn't trying to, you know, we were friends in the past and I just posted it on my whatever. I can't help. You know what I'm saying? And I feel that guilt and then I feel bad, but then I'm like, I didn't try. It's just such a weird spot to be in.
If their relationship has like a boundary between them where you're not supposed to be looking at that kind of stuff on the internet, and that's between them. That's not on you. Like, you're just doing your
Right.
job, you know?
I know. And like, that's what I think that's where the friendships get broken because that understanding isn't there because, I think for some people, our jobs are really kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
jobs are really crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand why people get weird and jealous, but it doesn't, change the fact that it can be hurtful.
Yeah, it is hurtful.
Yeah.
But I hope that that's what I'm trying to help do, though. I'm trying to bring people, I don't know, somehow together. Even if in this industry, I just want to help anybody. So anybody that ever comes to me and asks for help, I'm gonna be the first one to give it. But it has burned me a couple of times doing that, and I need to kind of learn that too. But I just think that everyone can benefit from what we've all learned.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
There's like,
I agree wholeheartedly.
heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are getting close to our hour. Is there anything else that you would like to bring up, such as advertising future trips or anything like that, before we say goodbye?
Well, let us see. I am coming to New York City very soon. I'm going to be there March the 6th through 9th, and I still have a couple of slots available. I do have a space to create if people are interested. Also interested in doing some street stuff. Also going to South Carolina the 19th through 23rd. So if anyone wants to shoot there, I am open and available. I'll scoot all around the Carolinas. But yeah,
Heck yeah, everybody listening, hire Ophelia on these trips.
yes, yes, yes. And I hope to shoot with you someday or at least hang out. We'll hang
Yeah. You're totally welcome. We have a spare room if you're not allergic to cats.
Oh, girl, I'm cat queen over here. I've got my bird and my 2 cats.
Aww.
Well, I love them all. My rescue fam. But yeah, I've never been to Arizona, so I'll come out one day and you guys have to show me around.
Yeah, there's a lot of photographers in the area that hire traveling models too, so it could be a good trip.
Oh, cool. I'll have to definitely look into that. Well, if you're ever in Florida, you guys know I'm here. So,
Awesome.
heck yeah.
All right, Ophelia, it's been great chatting with you, and I'm going to let you go.